I don't remember how I came up with the script idea. I remember how I pitched it. I had this idea to Hunter before. I suggested it to him, and he laughed at me at the cigar shop. He said, I don't know, I don't think that would work. He's probably going to tell you something differently, but I remember it was like that.
His original pitch was, The Big Lebowski's a hitman. And you need to hear from me that when I first heard that, Alex is a jokester. He makes jokes, so I was kind of like, oh, haha, that's funny. But I guess he was being serious. I didn't know that.
I was talking to Casey. I'm like, I got an idea, okay? I told Hunter, I don't know if he was so for it, but I'm going to tell you it. And I told him it's The Big Lebowski as a hitman. And Casey's like, okay, well, let me see his script. And so that night, I think I wrote about 30 minutes, and I sent it to Casey. And Casey's like, love it, let's do it. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even get a revision for it. So we kind of just ran with it.
And then eventually, he was informing me that him and Casey were talking about the script, and I was like, okay, I like this. I want to read the script now. And so then he sent it to me, and I thought the script was fun. It was goofy. It was a little out there. And so we eventually started meeting up every Tuesday from, I'd say, like July of last year till December. And every Tuesday we had a meeting, and we just thought, okay, if we could do this, we'd have to start here. And then, okay, if we start there, we should do this. Okay, but now we need the next building block to move on to here. And the story just progressively moved forward, and it went from, this would be a cool movie idea, to, okay, we can actually make this.
It was, and I know lots of people say it this way, but I really think that this film really belongs to everyone involved with it. I'd say the main people pushing it to be made are definitely myself, Hunter, Alex, and Ed. The four of us met pretty much every week, planning, preparing, getting everything set up. But every single person who we have in set, cast, and crew-wise added and helped create what ended up being made. Whether it was finding interesting angles, a line of dialogue here or there, or even extra stuff like behind the scenes or bloopers, I think the film really does belong to everyone involved rather than just a single person or even the four of us.
So we had a guy on board named Gary Busher who works, his mother is an actress, and he does some acting jobs as well. And so he got us on board with an acting website that you showed us, like a layout of your story, your script, and what kind of characters, what age you're looking for, what skin tone, preferably like what you want the person to look like. And so we put that out there. Within a couple weeks, we got a few hits, like maybe 25, 30 hits. And we spent an entire day casting. We decided to divide up the casting into two different locations. We did Glendale Community College. We got permission from the director, the film program director. So we were able to meet there. And then we also went to the Floor Store, which is owned by Chris Galvin and his business. And we were able to have an entire room just for casting.
And they're going to take my refrigerator and what are they going to do with my TV set?
I go up to Carol's door and I knock on the door and I see Carol! Carol, I gotta talk to you about Pepe. And when I open the door, what do I find out, Mac? There is not a single goddamn desk in that office. There is no Carol in HR. Is your landlord ready to evict you? Good. Pick up the phone and start dialing. Does your girlfriend think you're a fucking worthless loser? Good.
Now, I may not be all glamorous, and I don't have hair weaved all down my back, but let me tell you one great thing about me, all right? I've got heart. And do you want to know the bad part about having a heart, Marcus? Is that it gets broken. You deal with people like you.
So we picked our crew through who we were familiar with at school. I am from GCC originally, and Casey obviously has been at SEC for most of his associate's degree. But we met people throughout that year and a half, and we brought together everyone from Mesa Community College, from Scottsdale Community College, from Glendale Community College, and we kind of handpicked people that we knew had experience or that were interested in making a student film. And right off the get-go, we informed all the crew, hey, we're all students here on this project. We want to make something fun. We want to make something that's experimental. We want to make something that's a bit kooky.
The crew was really fun to put together. For me, I had a couple of friends who I'd worked with, but I just started going to Scottsdale Community College and studying film there. And so for a couple of my classes, I just basically went in front of the class and was like, hey, I'm making a film. If anyone wants to help out, please come up and talk to me. And I had like several people, 4 or 5, maybe 6 people come up and say they were interested. Hunter and Alex did the same thing. We brought them all together one day. We basically figured out what they were interested in, what parts they wanted to do, and we narrowed it down from there for what they were doing. But even on set, a lot of the crew members would change positions because they wanted to try something else, and we were totally fine with that. But a lot of it came from people who were interested from school, and we ended up growing really close to them. And they're still people I talk to and want to work with nowadays.
I met Casey and Hunter in screenwriting 2. Me and Casey worked with each other on the first day. We had to where you partner up and you talk about your feelings and everything and what you want to be when you grow up. So that was me and Casey the first day. I'm like, okay, Casey's fine. Casey's a cool guy. But like before we got in, I've told Hunter this story, but I hated Hunter the first time I met him. I thought he was so obnoxious because we're just waiting outside the class and it's for Jeannie's class and she's usually late. And Hunter is like the loudest guy I've ever met at this point in my life. And he's like, don't worry guys, she's always late. She's always late, don't worry. And I'm like, dude, I don't care. Whatever, I don't care. And I'm just like, I didn't have a good feeling about Hunter. And then when me and Casey were talking to each other about our movies, we had to say our 3 favorite movies. I'm like saying Ex Machina, Casey's saying like Breathless, Boyhood, and I just hear Hunter across the room pretty much yelling. He's like, yeah, I like Pulp Fiction and Goodfellas. I'm like, okay, he's got good movie taste. I'll give him that. And over the course of the class, we got closer. I think he was talking about Under the Skin, how he got an early showing of it, and I ended up seeing Under the Skin. I remember messaging him on Instagram, be like, dude, Under the Skin's great. Or no, not Under the Skin. What's that one? Was Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell. He was like, yeah, I saw Ghost in the Shell. It's great, visually amazing. I'm like, okay. So I saw that, and I remember messaging him on Instagram, be like, dude, you just saw Ghost in the Shell. I think it's awesome. And I think that's really where me and him got really close right there. And he ended up like, hey, come help on Left in Black, and I helped on Left in Black. That's where I met Ed. And then so later we were talking to Casey in that class, and me, Casey, and Hunter were kind of like a trio in that class. I feel like we were the loudest ones, and we always talk, we'd always fight and voice our opinions before everyone else. And I remember saying like, oh yeah, we should do like a Western or something. And Casey's like, yeah, let's do a Western. And Hunter's like, yeah, let's do a Western. So we all like had this plan to do a Western, but we ended up doing a crime. So it all worked out, but that's how I met Hunter and Casey. It wasn't like rewriting major parts of this. I think there was one major part. I think adding Daisy or Dandelion is probably like the biggest problem or biggest plot change we had, which is even that big. I think just where they wanted me to rewrite it, I'm like, do we need a rewrite? They're like, yeah, we should probably have a rewrite. I'm like, okay, you gotta buy me like a 6-pack or something to rewrite it. And so Hunter and Ed were the only ones that were 21. Hunter was like, fine, I'll buy you a 6-pack of something. And he bought me, or I wanted him to actually buy me a 30 rack of beer, but he only bought me an 18. And so I was like, whatever, it'll work. So I wrote it and revised it in 15 minutes that night, and I sent it to them. Hunty, how's it going, man? What, a rewrite? Are you sure we need it? Dude, I thought that was fine. Okay. I guess I could do it for a 30 rack, man. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. When do you need it by? Okay, I'll have it to you then. Sounds good. Talk to you later. I can't remember actually. I think that was better for Casey and Hunter to answer this.
What were some of the problems? What problems didn't we face in the desert would probably be an easier question to ask.
Okay, here's my favorite part. We ran into several different issues during production. One of which is we planned to shoot on the desert, this desert location way out there by Apache Junction, and we had gone and visited the set and the actual location on a weekday. Our mistake. We should have visited on a weekend.
Everything, I mean, the biggest thing was just interruptions that we had out in the desert. Any form of transportation that you can think of, we ran into. There were horses, there were people walking, there were cars, there were bikes, there was a train we heard, there were planes, there was everything. Constantly we had to stop a take, wait to start a take, any interruption you could think of. Beyond that, we ran out of batteries for the audio equipment.
Sound.
Damn it. I need new batteries for this.
Kill me.
The camera fell twice. Luckily, nothing was damaged, and it was out in the heat. We were all hot. So really, any problem you can think of. It was to me, the first 2 days were the toughest days we had, because not only were we learning to get the flow of shooting on set and working together, we were facing all of these interruptions that we had to deal with.
And you would think it'd be in the middle of nowhere where no one's out there. Wrong.
We had the cops coming every once in a while checking out on us. Park rangers. Yeah, the desert scene was actually crazy now that I think of it. I can't believe we got it done. I remember we had the one shot where we had to pan in and we had to use the shoulder rig to do it. And it took about an hour to get that shot, and we didn't even end up using the shot. And it was like we could have just braked for that whole time. It would have been the same product at the end, but So I think there was just a lot of stuff. I think it was mostly getting interrupted, which was the biggest problem. But hey, it happens, man.
But I think because it was the first 2 days, it really kicked our asses into gear and really made us be like, okay, we need to get these shots done, no matter all these interruptions. So the rest of the days after that, it really didn't become a problem, getting everything done in time. We had about 15 people in our crew and cast, and we were all in a tiny house for college students. So setting up lights, setting up audio equipment, camera gear, getting everything, and still being able to breathe was a tough objective. So another big issue at Cooper's house was the airplanes. The location of Cooper's house is actually the writer Alex's house. We use his house. And it resides extremely close to an airport. So every time we were about to start a take, you just hear a plane. We always have to say, hold for plane. So in all, we probably spent at least an hour of the 9 hours we filmed that day just waiting for airplanes.
Camera! Rolling! Sound! Speed! Marker!
Family room, take one.
Hold for airplane!
So for Cooper's bathroom, we had to set that thing up lighting wise with a couple of it was just one reflector, or it was one bounce, diffusion bounce, and then we had to get the boom mic in there, and then of course we had to get the camera in there and at an angle where you can't see from the reflection that the camera's in there. So we popped in our AC, Zach Bennett, and he was a trooper. He held down that shoulder rig for maybe 3 or 4 takes till we got it right.
Yeah, so like a day before production, we went to this restaurant called Tucci's, and Hunter said like he knew the owner or something. So we're like, okay, it's a pizza shop, Vespucci's, Italian, it'll work. So like, but a day before we shot, a day before we started shooting in the desert, the guy's like, hey, we can't do it that day. And we're like, well, crap.
We just lost the location. Got text to Alex and Casey. No, why? No, if, just, hey, can't do it that day. Sorry. And so that night was like a cast and crew party, like a little get together. So that night, Casey and I were scrambling to find another location.
So we start talking to every crew member. I'm posting all over my social media, trying to find any location we can. Luckily, one of our crew members, Trey Bills, he works at a coffee shop called Bull Roost. He had talked to his managers, and they had offered for us to use their location. So I'd called them. The toughest part was explaining to them, like, we have to have no music playing. We have to take up space. We're going to have to yell quiet on set so there's no one talking. And they were amazing. They were so cool about it. They let us move their furniture around, get the camera angles we needed, as well as letting us use their location pretty much the whole day. So they were just unbelievably gracious to us. Once the day started, we had a setup where Vinny and Cooper are right next to a window. We had shot at least 1 or 2 takes where the sunlight was right on Cooper's face, and we thought that was fine, no problem. But then it occurred to me that the sun moves, so if we continue to shoot the scene, we can't have the sun in Cooper's face because it won't be there in the later cuts we do. So we had to get something to block the sunlight out there. Setting that up was tough, just getting it set up, and then it would consistently fall over. So we had to have someone out there watching it, and getting that ready ate up much more time than it should have. So we were already running late, and we only got 1 or 2 more takes of the scene when we should have gotten like 4 or 5. Besides that, we also had a pair of police officers sit right outside the window where we were. So we had to go out and politely ask them to move to a different table so that they wouldn't be in our shot. And then while we were shooting takes, the restaurant's phone would constantly go off, interrupting the take. We had to think about customers that are in the store, not getting in their way, but making sure that they are not talking, so we hear them in the audio. So overall, we thought the day had gone good, and then we went into the editing, and we realized the audio that we had recorded was almost completely unusable. There was either a fan or the AC on or something.
That worked. Wait a second, we got that.
But the audio was just unbelievable.
Yeah, so we were rolling audio during the diner scene, and what ended up happening was the mixer ended up dying on us, and then we ended up losing a mic, and so we ended up just having to use one single boom pole and shotgun.
So eventually, I had to go back with Chris, who plays Vinny, and John, who plays Cooper, and re-record all the dialogue for the scene.
I was only at Daisy's house for half the time. I think they said the camera rig, they had to tape it onto the car. I'm not sure, I wasn't there. I think that's what it was. They had to tape it with a medical tape. I think that was the only real problem we had. Oh no, actually no, we had to reshoot because I think Daisy didn't come in focus correctly. Yeah, okay, so when she was in the rear, or she was in the shotgun, I don't think she was coming out correctly or something like that, so we had to reshoot that, and we had to pay for retakes or reshoots, yeah. So yeah, we had problems on every set we were at.
So in the scene where Cooper picks up Daisy, that whole scene takes place with them driving, and it wasn't a big problem. Hunter and Ed had both, in their last film, did a scene where they just used these industrial-sized suction cups. But the thing is, the suction cups weren't really sticking to the car you're using that well. We had to go through 3 different cars to get the right suction cups. To get the suction cups to work on the right car. And so we were all a little bit nervous because not only were the suction cups not sticking that well, the camera was a rented camera, and we had 2 more days of filming still to go through after that. So we would set up the camera. Finally, after many trial and error, we finally got the camera set up on the car. And then John, who plays Cooper, Shaylin, who plays Daisy, would drive around with Hunter crouching down in the back seat. And They would drive around the neighborhood, and the rest of the crew, including me and Ed, the DP, would hide inside of the garage, just waiting for them to come back around. All of us just crossing our fingers that that camera was safe on top of the car. And luckily, it never fell off. And we got through, I think, like 5 or 6 takes of it. Really clean and really good. So we were lucky, but it was extremely stressful. So with the hotel shoots, our first problem was finding the right hotel. We were looking for something really aesthetic, something that really fit our vibe of this kind of 70s look. I had searched over 10 hotels that all said no to us until we finally found a hotel that Hunter and Ed had shot at before that were really great to us, and they were super wonderful. So we ended up shooting there.
Yeah, so we couldn't get into the hotel until like 4 o'clock or something the first day, so we had to shoot quickly, but I don't think we got a lot of the shots we needed. I think we tried to do the blood squirting shot, and that didn't work. We didn't get that right. We tried it the second day too. We still didn't get it, and then we had to eventually shoot it at Hunter's house. So I don't think it ever came out in the hotel. I think we had to end up shooting at Hunter's.
Imagine when I had talked about shooting at Cooper's house, a small space. Imagine a quarter of that space now, and having 15 cast and crew members in that small of a space. So the first day starts, and we're all overwhelmed and cramped in there. We're shooting. Ed isn't feeling good. We finally break for lunch. We go get food. We come back. Only when we come back do I realize we had completely forgotten to shoot a whole sequence of shots that basically killed that much time that we had that day.
Because we were supposed to get something. We were supposed to get, I think, John kicking the door open and entering the hotel. But Hunter and Casey, I think they went to break instead. And I should have probably said something like, hey, let's get this shot real quick. But I wasn't thinking about it. I was like, okay, we could just get it tomorrow. And I think that really put us behind on the second day. I think they were really nervous going in. I remember because they were all hung out at Hunter's house that night. And I went to my parents' house and wanted to hang out with them, and they're like, yeah, we are so behind. We need to focus up today. I'm like, we're going to get it. Don't worry. We'll get it. And luckily we got it. I think Michaela came in clutch by putting the makeup on Jake really quickly, so I think that saved it on the second day, but we could have been in some serious trouble.
Hey, behind the scenes guy!
While we're shooting this, we want to replicate John's blood on his face.
We've been here for about...
Okay.
How long has it been, Michaela? 27 hours?
Yeah.
Working on day 12.
I thought it was only gonna be.
So Hunter, Ed, and I all go to Hunter's home that night, and we were just planning this thing out meticulously, how to get every single shot done tomorrow. Alex, the writer and first AD, comes in early, and we have to basically tell him, we got to kick it into gear today. We have to get it done. The second day, we called Sunday Bloody Sunday, because we were filming it on a Sunday, and that was the day when we were using all of our special effects, which was all of our blood. We had to do a prosthetic cut wound in Jimmy's neck. So that cut wound took about 2 hours to apply. So we were just trying to figure out what can we get done during that time. We had figured out there were some opening shots that we wanted at the very beginning of the movie that we hadn't gotten yet. So James, who played Brian, was showing up a little late. Not late, but we were wanting to film during this time. We hadn't scheduled him to come in for about another hour or so. So we were figuring out how can we get these shots done. So what we ended up doing is just taking one of our crew members, James Lloyd, and using him as basically a hand model where he pulls out a CD, opens the CD up, and puts it into a CD player. And then once James, the actor, got there, we ended up just getting a medium shot of him so it looks like he's the one doing everything. During this time also, we realized there's a scene where Cooper's character is getting all of his weapons out of his trunk, and we hadn't filmed that yet. And I thought of an idea that ended up working out perfectly, which was to have a second unit film this. So we ended up getting James Lloyd again, who ended up being the DP for that. John, who played Cooper, he ended up being the director of it. And several other crew members, I think Martin and Mark, who ended up working as the camera assistant and grip on it. And they shot pretty much the scenes you see in the film of the looking at the weapons, pulling out the weapons, putting the jacket on, all of that was done by our second unit. And it saved us so much time. It let our other crew members express their creativity, which I love, and that was amazing. So, while they were filming that, we had to worry about all of our special effects, all of our blood. We had scenes of Cooper stepping in puddles of blood. You see it a little bit in the movie with the blood creeping under the door. But we had gallons of fake blood that we were pouring all over here, and we couldn't get it on anything or else it would have stained. So I got from Chris, who plays Vinny in the film, he gave us some extra flooring that he had. And so we used this fake carpet that we would put whenever we had this fake blood around, and it worked perfectly. The cleanup was so much easier. We ended up just throwing out the carpet that had all the blood stains on it. But that second day just made us all feel so much better because we got all the shots done and we ended early. And really all the credit for that goes to our crew, who really stepped up that last day, who really showed us that as a team, you can pull off a film. If you have a good team, you can do anything, literally anything. We did more shots that day than I think we did on any other day of filming. And we did it in, I think, like 6 or 7 hours. It was just incredible. I was so happy with the product that we came with, and there's no way we could have done it without the crew that we had.
Second day was the last day, so it was really, that was it. Like, we only paid for those 2 days, and that was it. We couldn't get everyone back in. I think that was a Sunday, too, so it's not like we could get people back on Monday, and we had to give the camera back later that night, so it was like, that was it. We had to go that day, and everything just clicked, I think. It was just in the stars. It was meant to be.
Film
It's
it.
officially.
It's officially screwed.
It's officially screwed. Thank you, everyone that showed up
Seriously.
today.
Every single one of you guys brought so much
so depleted.
to the crew.
We are beyond grateful for everything you guys have done,
Yeah.
and this could not have been possible if we did not have you.
It really means a lot that you
You've
guys
been-
came out every day for all you.
Yeah.
And even if you just came out one day.
You have been a phenomenal crew. You've been committed, and you've done the dirty work, literally. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for being part of this. And Unscrewed will be released soon.
Coming soon.
Wow, okay.
Awesome, guys.
Hey, no,
Seriously.
wait.
So the editing process for the film was a whole new beast compared to pre-production and production. The biggest problem was simply the distance. As I mentioned earlier with the Valleywide Films, Ed lives out in Whitman, and I live out in Mesa. It takes me almost 2 hours to get out to Ed's place. So a lot of the times I would simply Skype in so I can see what they're editing, but I can also hear them talking. That helped a lot, but it still made me very disconnected during a lot of the process, which was very difficult.
See, I had a couple of my guys, and they switched.
What can I get you guys?
The other biggest difficulty was simply the artistic differences between myself, Hunter, and Ed. Because for different scenes, there were some times where the three of us all wanted completely different things. So we had to work it out, exactly make compromises, and we would learn to really determine what's best for the movie.
I think it's the best we can really do.
I mean, we could just delay it just a little bit longer. Like I said, now I'm kind of psyched out, so I don't know if what I'm seeing is what I'm seeing, so.
It's really messy, and as an editor, I have to be the middleman and say, okay, look, Hunter wants this, and Casey wants this, but Casey doesn't want this, and Hunter wants this.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use A and B. What I want is I'm gonna do. He says we're gonna keep the wide shot.
Hold on, let's get him. I'm gonna show him what we got so far.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
But it was pretty difficult. There were times where we would go weeks on end without changing a single thing because we couldn't decide on what we all wanted.
As an editor, it's also it's also a challenge to the fact that I also bring my own style to the mix of editing.
So it became pretty difficult, but overall I think we worked out a really good repertoire between myself, Ed, and Hunter, and I think the product shows for itself that it's a coherent film, and you can watch it from the beginning to end and still have a good time.
It's gonna surprise people, I feel like, but I think Derek is my favorite character. Just, I think I never met the kid before he never auditioned. Connor just pulled him out of obscurity, and we found him, and he came on set, and he was perfect for the role. But I think Derek is just kind of, I don't know if on the paper he was my favorite character, but when I watched the performance, I think it was my favorite. Just seeing him, just the deadness in his eyes when he looked at Cooper, I'm like, that is it. That is what I wrote. I think that might be why Derek is my favorite character. I like them all, but I think Derek stands out among them. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people, but I don't know. For some reason, Derek clicked. I was like, that's it. I think we got it right there. I like Vinny, though. I think Chris was great as Vinny. I think John was great as Cooper. I think everyone was great. I think everyone fit their role, but it's something special about Derek.
That's a screw. Derek, I'm gonna fucking lose it.
Yeah, I actually based him off my roommate, Derek, because sometimes when I talk to Derek, my roommate, I look at him and he looks back at me, and I feel like there's nothing going on, like the wheels aren't turning back there. Sometimes he's just kind of looking at you dead, and I was like, you know what, I need to write about this. I need someone like for Cooper to voice his frustrations to, and Cooper understands him and he understands Cooper, but like they just do not, or he does not talk back to Cooper. So I wrote that, and it came out, and I showed Derek the movie. He's like, yeah, that was totally based off of me, huh? I'm like, yeah, dude, that was you. So I think it worked out perfectly. It was like a Penn and Teller kind of thing. He just didn't talk, and he knew his role and everything. He was cool with it, and it takes a special kind of person to pull that role off, where they're not gonna have any lines, but you just gotta sit there and look. I think he did perfect with it.
My favorite character would probably... That's a tough one. I'd have to say my favorite character is Vinny, because to me, he's probably the most straightforward guy in the film. And Chris brought just so much character to him. I mean, all of our cast brought their own flares to the characters that we couldn't have imagined before, but Chris really went all out. He had put on a fat suit. He had aging makeup done on him to make himself look older. He even did a different voice. And he was just incredible. He was so into the role, and I just love how intimidating he is to Cooper, and Cooper really couldn't give less of a shit, you know? He's such a serious guy in such a funny movie. He's just wonderful, and Chris's performance just really fleshed it out and made it one of my favorite parts of the whole movie.
Anyone cooks?
Rare.
Rare.
Extra rare. See, I want to feel like a lion, biting into his prey.
Charming.
So my favorite character is Cooper Casanova. Easy choice. Cause he's a schmuck. Like most of us in society. I like Cooper because he's on the verge of he's just doing what everyone else does in life. He has his own niche. He makes his money his own way, and everything just kind of becomes unscrewed for him throughout this entire film. Much like life, we all just kind of mess up throughout our daily routines. And Cooper's attitude through everything is very relaxed, very mellow, almost like a hippie, if you will. A really like how Alex describes it, Jeff Bridges in The Big Lebowski. He's very relaxed. He's just kind of going with the flow. He's got this mob boss speaking to him about murdering somebody, and he's more worried about why he's not ordering a salad and why he's gone extra lettuce on a burger. I mean, whose mindset thinks like that? So I'd say definitely Cooper Casanova, for sure.
There was a specific individual who may or may not have written the screenplay to the film that was a certain nuisance on set a couple of times. I won't mention his name.
Yes, it's a bitch. Intentional. You hear that?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
I mean, honestly, working with Alex is such an experience on its own, just because he brings so much energy to a set. And even though he can be a bit distracting at times, I know on that last day when we talked to him and we told him that we had to kick in the gear and get it done, we got it done, mostly thanks to him. He was making sure we were sticking with exactly what we needed to get done. But man, working with him is an experience unlike any other, let me tell you. But again, I wouldn't trade anything for it. It was wonderful working with him. I was so happy.
Where you going with that?
And more water.
Hey, in your room. What are you doing? I'm not done shooting. What's happening here?
Oh man, favorite part of I think just making the movie, like pre-production, I think was just probably the most fun because we didn't get a lot of work done in pre-production. I mean, we did, but we would joke around a lot in pre-production. We would have a great time, and it was like every Tuesday, it was like just every Tuesday we had the meeting. So after school, I'd be driving, and I'd be stuck in traffic for about an hour just to get to this meeting. But it was like some of the most fun I ever had. I'd be missing Coyotes games for this. I'd want to watch the Coyotes game instead, but I'd still be at the meetings and everything. I think just being there and hanging out with them was probably the best part. And like even after, I think everyone, once we finished filming, we went to Hunter's house that night to have like a congratulatory Guinness at the end of the filming. And I remember Hunter and us we were just like, man, what are we gonna be doing on Tuesday nights now? For like half a year, Tuesday nights were just kind of dedicated to just kind of talking about what we were gonna do, talk about what the movie was gonna be, how we were gonna film it, everything like that. So I think pre-production was just probably the most fun I've ever had, just working with people, just like that collaboration and just kind of like in a way bonding, but just working out the problems that we had. I think that was probably my favorite part of the whole film. I think on production, I think just for some reason waking up at like 4 a.m. and going to the desert to shoot made me feel like such a professional in a way, being like, oh, we gotta do this. Like you felt like a soldier going to war or something. Like you're driving down, you're like, we gotta do this, we gotta crank this out, and you get there at 6 and it was kind of cold. It was actually freezing, and we'd be waiting for the sun to come up and everything. We're getting organized. I think that was my favorite part. I think overall filming was just like, it's so tiring in the moment doing it, and you eat so terribly, and you just like, it was just like 2 weeks of just eating terribly and waking up and being tired and just hating, like you kind of like just are so tired, you kind of hate being on set, and then right when you're done, you're like, man, when are we gonna shoot our next movie? That was like the most fun. It's a weird complex you got, because you hate it but you love it at the same time and just crave it to do it again.
The best part about the whole production of Unscrewed is simply just working creatively with people. And not even that, just working with great people. Even if it's uncreative, even if it's on a business side, working with the people I did was just one of the most deep and moving experiences I've ever had in my life, because everyone taught me so much about myself during the process, even beyond as an artist, because I learned a lot about myself as an artist through them. I learned what works. For the Bold Roost thing, like I can't spread myself out that thin, I learned as a director I need to stay in my spot and trust others and delegate jobs to other people. And I learned what does work. Some of the shots in the film that I thought worked great, some edits that I thought worked great, and some edits that didn't work great, that I know what I'd rather do next time. But overall, just the people on set, from beginning to end, from working with Alex, Hunter, and Ed as a creative team to create this film, to getting to the set and working with my classmates and my friends, and we all ended up growing close, and I think the experience really brought us all together. But the people I met just really changed my life and really confirmed that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, beyond making art, beyond doing this and that, just working with people and having these experiences is something that you really can't get with any other art form. Working on a film set is just incomparable to anything I've ever experienced in my life. And if I could go back and relive it, I would do it in a heartbeat and not change a single thing about it.
Casey, what happened?
Yo, get these boobs on B-roll, dog. Look at this. Oh my god, thank God, bro.
That man's having seizures.
Nay, nay. Get the hips, get the hips. You see that? Woo!
Yeah, I swear I saw that.
It's all in the knees.
It was like on the bed.
That's for you.
And we're driving, and we go to a stop sign. Ed's in the passenger seat. And there's a car right in front of us with a refrigerator, like barely tied down. And I'm stopping. I'm like, man, that's really dangerous. And right as I stop, you just hear something that's like, shh. And like we both turn, and we just see the tail flying towards Ed's head, and it just hits the back of his seat and stops. And Ed's face he was just so terrified. He looked like he was about to die. He was like,
I was. I would be too.
I feel like my final moments.
Speed. Action.